It's a little more than a year old now, but it still is, in my mind, one of the best things that Canvas has given us. And that is the ability to create some policies. All right. One of the reasons that we have a policy for a missing assignment is that in the past, one of the tasks that you had to do to manage your gradebook was to make sure that if an assignment is missing from a student, that they don't have this dash. This little dash right here equals a null value. And so if a student never turns in an assignment and that dash remains, then that student's grade is inflated, because a 0 compared to a null value is going to make a big difference for a student. And so having a policy that flags when an assignment from a student is missing is really a great thing. The policies in the gradebook are right here under this gear. So on the upper right corner, if you click on this gear, you will see policies. There are 3 total. We're going to talk about the late policy and the missing policy. So right now, nothing will happen if a student's work is late. If we set this policy, we'll click on automatically apply a grade for a missing assignment, a missing submission. For some reason, Canvas allows you to set that if an assignment is missing, that you can give students a certain percentage of the grade. I think it has to do with K-12 environment, not quite sure. I'm pretty sure that we all agree in higher ed that if an assignment is missing, that the automatic grade that that assignment will get will be a 0. Okay, now I'm going to show you how these work. So we're just setting the policy right now. So that's our policy for missing assignment. We're also going to set a policy for a late assignment. Okay, so you turn it on and notice that you have a % deduction per interval. And so I'm going to say I want a 5% deduction per day that an assignment is late. And what Canvas is going to do for us is Canvas is going to collect that information. It's going to keep track of that for us. And then when we grade the assignment, if that assignment was late, Canvas will automatically apply 5% per day. You can also do it per hour here, but I'm going to give you per day to show you how it works. All right, so those are the 2 policies. I'm going to go ahead and update that. And now I'm going to show you how they work. The thing that must happen in order for a policy to work is in an assignment, and we'll talk about assignment A1. Okay, this is the assignment we're going to work with. I go into edit. For a late policy to work, you have to have a due date. There's no way for Canvas to tell whether an assignment is late or missing if there's not a due date. Now, when you set these due dates, you have not only the due date, but you have the available from and available until. The available from is the date at which the students will be able to submit the work. The available until date is the date after which students will no longer be able to submit the work. And so if you don't accept late work, and this is the case here, then the due date and the until date have to be the same. Right? So in this case, I don't accept late work. So what I'm going to do to demonstrate this, because this is today's date, is I'm going to go ahead and change this date to Monday. Okay, and I'll make this one match. All right, we'll save that. And so now when we go into the grade book, what you see for this assignment is 2 things. One is the result of the missing policy. So neither Frank nor Gail had turned in any work by the 6th. They hadn't turned it in by today, but it still wasn't late today because today they had till midnight. But if this assignment was due on Monday, these 2, Monday at 12:01, this showed up in the grade book. And this also showed up in their grade book. So if you go to their grade book, now they have a status of missing. They also have a grade of F. Okay, so this is a big deal because before, if an assignment was missing, it could be that way all term. It could just be this null value until the instructor came in here and actually managed this and put the 0 in. The grade was not reflected for the students. And so this is a way to engage students, actually, to get students to realize that they haven't turned in the work and that they need to do so or it will be a 0. So that's what happens with the missing policy. On the late policy, we'll look at Kathy Cassidy here. The blue has indicated that something is up. In this case, it's indicating that it's late. And so let's say that we go in and grade this paper, and this was a great paper. So we're going to give it a 100, okay? But Canvas has been keeping it track that this paper was 2 days late, and the policy was 5% per day. So I guess it was only 1 day late. Monday, Tuesday. I guess it was 1 day. Anyway, 5% per day, automatically Canvas did that calculation for us. Okay, so it was a 95. Now you might be thinking, this looks great, but I've lost a lot of control here. I mean, that Canvas now has put zeros in here, and can I go in and change this? You know, can I make something else here? And the answer is yes, you can. Now you could do that manually, but along with those policies, you now have in each cell for each assignment for each student this little arrow on the right. And if you click on that little arrow, you're going to get what's called a grade details card. And this is where you can change what's happening with the policies that have already been set. So you have ultimate control here. All right, so this was a 0, okay, because it was missing. But Frank came in and said, brought the paper and gave you a reason for why the paper was missing, or sent you an email and did the same thing. And you considered it and you understood the situation. And so you decided, well, this is also a great paper. I'm going to make this assignment late instead of missing. And it's not quite 2 days, it's 1.6. The points are if you're doing hours. Okay, so this would be 1 day. And so I'm going to give this grade, I'm going to give this student a 95. Wonderful paper. Okay, and enter that grade. And when I do, now it's doing 10%. Kathy's was 95 because she turned hers in yesterday. So hers was 1 day late. Frank did not turn his in until today. So Frank has a 10% late penalty. Okay? So Canvas is controlling that for you, taking care of that, I should say, managing that for you. Okay. James also turned in his paper yesterday. Obviously a great paper, right? We're going to give James 100 and return, and that's a 95. But let's say that James had a really good reason for not being able to get that paper in yesterday. You have ultimate control, and you can come in here and say, actually, it's not late. There's some reason, and then those 5 points go back in there. And then also with Gail, if you wanted to, if Gail came in and had maybe had COVID or something like that, you could say, all right, in Gail's case, I'm just going to excuse this one. Click on excused, and now this is equivalent to the null value. So this doesn't count toward her final grade at all. So you have total control over these policies and their application. Again, a wonderful, wonderful tool. My strong recommendation to you, if you're going to use policies, is to set them up early as possible, the beginning of the term being the best time.